Hey, Sam.
Hello, my love.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to see you.
I know, I know. It feels like it's been so long.
I know. We did Sam's podcast, so if you haven't listened, I'm going to link it below. A few months ago? Yeah?
Yes, yes. Such a good episode. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we had the best time. We talked about manifesting men, social media numbers. So go listen to that because it was just girls having a girly time and it was the best. So
Yes.
we want more of that today. So if you don't know Sam, could you introduce what you do and a little background of how you started? You don't need to go into your whole story.
Perfect. Okay, so I am Sam. I am a spiritual business coach. And basically, how I got started is I just fell in love with manifestation my junior year of college. I was going through a funk, and acquaintance, is that how do you say it? An acquaintance.
Acquaintance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so bad, you guys, just so you know, in this podcast, so bad at pronouncing stuff, so bad at spelling, but you can still have a thriving business, so do not worry. And so she really showed me, she was like, watch The Secret. I watched The Secret. I fell in love. I was like, this is the missing puzzle piece. This is everything that I've been talking about or like feeling like there was something outside of me. So, anyways, fell in love with manifestation. Fast forward a couple years, I get out of college and I'm working for Saks Fifth Avenue as a buyer, any 25-year-old girl's dream job. And I absolutely loved it. It was my dream corporate job. But I never dreamed of being in corporate. And so once the pandemic happened, I got furloughed and I was just not upset at all. I knew how this, manifestation stuff worked. And I was like, this is my ticket to finally being able to pursue my dreams of becoming an entrepreneur. So basically, I tried a couple different things. I tried drop shipping, and that wasn't obviously going to work because of shipping during the pandemic. But what I really wanted to do is be a life coach, a coach of some sort. And I just had all these limiting beliefs. I'm too young. Who would learn from me all this stuff? And then slowly the universe was showing me like, oh, one of my favorite life coaches started at 25 and I was 25. And then another girl had a course. She was my age. She was making six figures. And so I took her course and my company, Saks, they called me back into work. I quit. I told my dad I got fired. He still has no idea. And then I actually started as a manifestation coach and then started taking business clients and fell in love with the business side of it. So that's basically the short, long story of how I'm here.
Amazing. I think I started following you, like we connected and became internet friends when you were still manifesting queen.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
name.
that was her handle because you were the manifesting queen.
Mhm.
And if you haven't followed Sam, she has the best energy ever. So when you were talking about I was worried I had to be a certain age and all these limiting beliefs about being successful or being able to help anyone, truly just showing up as you is the secret sauce because just being in your energy, it just makes people feel like they can do anything, like anything is possible.
So see, I honestly just watched so many women before me. Like that was the reason that I got here. And I just, once I found out about manifestation, I was like, we can have whatever life we want. Like I looked at celebrities, and if you guys look closely, so many celebrities talk about manifestation. Like Ariana Grande puts it in her music. And I started realizing the people who were so successful, they believed in this. And
Mhm.
that's why they were there. And I just realized, oh my gosh, we get to like basically paper mache our life into whatever we want it to be.
It's so cool. And I want to talk about how what one of the main things is in your business. And I know not everyone is a business owner, and that's totally fine because you can use this in every area of your life. But you talk about you are the secret sauce, like it's you, and how you just talked about how you're not the best speller, you might not pronounce things, whatever, that doesn't matter because it doesn't define who you are at all. And people like that you're like, I suck at spelling, but I make a lot of money. So I'm really great at this. So if you want to learn how to make a lot of money, come work with me. If you want to learn how to spell, like go to school. That's not what I'm here for.
Absolutely. And it's so crazy because I literally just made a TikTok today that I sent out. But something that I really realized, and this is like a huge sales tip for anyone, I asked like dozens of my clients, why did you sign up with me? And the main theme that they said is because you were yourself online because I have ADHD and you talk about your ADHD and you talk about you have a million tabs open at any time. And the fact that, it's not spiritual to drink with your friends on the weekend and I'm hungover every single weekend. And I just talked about these things. And that's the reason it's so funny because people are like, the industry is so saturated, but all you have to do is be yourself. And how I kind of realized that I was doing that way before, Alex Earl blew up. But what I realized is Alex Earl blew up because she started being herself. She was like, it wasn't until I talked about my acne. I always talk about the Kardashians. They were literally showed us everything, the sex tape, their divorces, transitioning. Like they brought us through their whole life. And so we know, like, and trust them. And that's why they come out with a product and we all buy it. And it's like,
Mhm.
once you realize that, business isn't that hard.
Right, because I think most of us, when we think about what we wanna do, we go, "Oh, I can't do that because of this, because I'm not polished enough, I'm not intelligent enough, I don't have enough experience," and you realize that none of that matters, and the only way to get experience is to get experience, and that you don't have to. I think especially because Instagram was such a thing for such a long time that you had to be so polished, and every post had to be so intentional and edited, and that's just not the case anymore. It's the best time to show up as yourself.
Yes, 1,000, and that's why it was so funny when Threads came out because all these coaches were like, "Oh my gosh, I can finally be myself," and I was like, "Wait, where have you like, I've been here shooting in the gym, telling you guys that I just woke up and I'm hungover and I'm eating a bacon, egg, and cheese, and now you guys
Mhm,
are talking about being yourself? Like, what is happening?" And so, yeah,
mhm.
I completely agree that this is where and that the explosion of TikTok is really where people started being like, "We like people who are themselves, and that's what we're looking for."
Absolutely. And I noticed you talk a lot about how you post a lot of static posts and reels, and I mean, not reels, static posts and carousels instead of reels. You wouldn't not do a reel, but just because it's like people are like, oh, that's the thing to grow. And you're like, I actually convert and I'm actually making money when I do more static posts. So that's what I'm doing because it's the best way the information flows out of me. And that's what works for you. So you don't have to do what everyone says to do.
That's probably my biggest tip in business of like, you have to find the way that lights you up, or you're just not gonna stick with it, you're not gonna do it, and it's just not going to bring you the results that you want. Like, and with
Mhm.
anything in your life, honestly, like, I do this with health and fitness. Every area, you have to ask yourself, like, "What lights me up?" and start doing that, and then that's where your results will come.
Right, and because everyone is different. First off, everyone's physical body is different, and second, everyone has a different soul. So one thing that is on someone's path of this will make your physical body in the best shape, and this will give you more energy and make you feel fit and make you feel beautiful and empowered. This workout works best for this person, and maybe it works for 50,000 other people, but for 100,000 other people, it doesn't work for their body, and that's not the right thing. So you really have to be listening to your intuition to figure out, okay, this works for me. I feel lit up doing it. That's how you know. That's how you're like, this is a yes. And then you just keep doing it and see the results. But if something feels like it takes all the wind out of you and you don't want to do it, you just don't have to do it. And it's probably not meant for you.
It's insane because really how I got here, which is just such a crazy story, is I was in COVID and remember I used to do like every diet under the book. I used to do Whole30, keto, like I was always on a diet and I was never where I wanted to be. And I remember just saying, and I was always, working out really hard 5 times a week. And I remember saying to the universe, like, I can't, it's taking up so much mental space. Like, please can you give me a new way, like an actual lifestyle? And I remember just like asking the universe for a way, asking, and intuitive eating fell into my lap. And I learned that like I could ask my body what it wanted to eat and it would actually tell me and how much it wanted to eat. And I could do the same thing with exercise. Do I want to go for a walk that day, or do I want to push myself and do a workout class? And I ended up losing 20 pounds and keeping it off. And from that, I was like, what if I do the intuitive way of, health and fitness? What if I do that in my business? And so I started asking myself, like, do I want to do sales calls? No, I don't. I want to sell in the DMs. Do I want to, post a reel today, or do I want to make a carousel post? And once I started following, my intuition, I started getting the results I wanted to see.
Yeah, that is so key. I relate to that so much because not to sound like an asshole, but I naturally have been intuitively eating my whole life. And
Yes.
so I truly haven't had body image issues like a lot of the women around me. And that doesn't mean that I don't struggle in other areas of my life where they're soaring. It just in this area, because like my mom never used language that was, she was never commenting on her appearance or my appearance or anything. She was a really amazing role model in that way. And so I didn't even think about it. I didn't know that people struggled until
Yes.
I was around other friends that were saying all this shit about their bodies. I'm like, oh, should I be thinking this way about my body? And it was something that in college a little bit, because I was living with so many women in the same house. And that was the time I was at my heaviest, because I was starting to think about it, because every day I'm thinking about what they're saying and then looking at my body in that way. And then as soon as I was out on my own again, like the weight fell off and I never thought about it. And I know I'm super lucky in that way. And a lot of people have to do subconscious reprogramming to even get to the point that I was at naturally. But it's such a thing. If you just listen to what your body is telling you, like it will tell you. And I will start to crave protein if I need more protein. I will start to crave smoothies and vegetables and I don't even like vegetables if if I need them. And I just listen and I do it. And the more that you are eating things that aren't so processed and everything, like if you get into a habit of getting in this like sugar spikes and the processed food, it's hard for you to hear the intuition. But when you're in the intuitive eating, it's really easy.
Yes, and you're so right, because it also taught me that success leaves clues, because when I found intuitive eating, I was like, I can eat whatever I want and lose weight. Like this is has to be BS, right? And then I asked myself, who are my friends who, have the best relationship with food? They have, the body I want. And it was the friends that literally ate like toddlers, like ate would be like, great, I had a bite of food and I'm kind of full today. And not like in a disordered eating way, meaning like they would listen. They would be like, "Oh, I want to eat this whole pizza," or today, I just want this slice. And I realized that success leaves clues. Like I should have just asked my friends who, and so I do the same thing with my business. Success leaves clues. Look out for that as well. And you said it's the people who you surround yourself. Like we always talk about this. Like being successful is who you surround yourself with, and not to like an extreme, but just like you said, you started getting that disordered eating or like thinking that way when other people were too.
And it's those subconscious beliefs. Like when I look in the mirror, and I have a beauty hypnosis that reprogrammed any shit that I that I did have lying around.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah, but so when I look in the mirror, like all I see is great things. But if women that are struggling, if they start to reprogram those beliefs, that's what they will see. Like what you focus on expands. So it's not only listening to your intuition, but also deciding this is what I will be. This is who I am. And it all falls in line. Like once you decide internally, externally, you will see the definition in your body. You will start to see all the things you love about your body. It all starts inside. And I've noticed that a lot of women, if I tried to, not that I'm trying to say anything to my friends unless they ask, but they'll be like, oh, it's your metabolism, like you can just eat a whole pizza because that's how you were made or whatever, and you're fine. But it's like, well, yeah, because of the way that my beliefs came out pretty good in this area, the way that I was nurtured as a kid. But it's because I believe I have a fast metabolism. I believe my body knows what it's doing. I believe it will digest in the way that's best for all of my organs and everything. And I believe that even when I'm on my period and stuff, where there are times, it's not like I'm absolutely perfect, but there's times I'm like, oh, this isn't looking as great on me, or my jeans are tighter or whatever. But I always remember I'm on my period. It will last for 5 days and then I'm going to be back to what I was feeling before.
Yes, I literally feel like we're twins separated at birth, because everything you're saying, like, that's exactly what I was gonna say, or like that's my exact experience. What you said when you were like, so that's what I did first. First, I looked at myself in the mirror, and that's when I fell in love with affirmations. Is I started telling myself like, you are beautiful. I love my body. Like I started saying these things on repeat. And the truth is, I have friends that are like a 00 who would still call themselves fat. And what you realize is like, you're never, ever going to feel amazing if you don't rewire your brain. And you're completely right. That's where it starts. And so I could be at any weight right now, but because I've rewired my brain to love my body, I'm going to love it at any place. And then, like you said, if you're always on a diet and say you eat a cookie, you're going to feel stressed eating the cookie, and that cortisol is going to make you, hold on to fat. And you guys know I'm not a scientist. I can't spell nothing like that. So go look this up. But like, yes, like that's the craziest part.
No, that's 100% a thing when you're in survival mode. I'm affirming you. That's 100% a thing. When you're in survival mode, your body thinks it needs to store fat because you might not be able to get the nutrition. It thinks I'm in danger, danger, danger. I'm in physical peril. So it will hold on to the fat in your body so that because it might think you might not get food for a couple days or whatever, it'll hold on to it if you eat in a state of stress. And that's something that I never feel bad about what I'm eating ever because I'm, again, intuitively eating. My body wants this, it needs this. If I want to have a whole pizza, I do. And then I, eat it. I feel great about it. And then usually the next day I'm craving some sort of protein and a smoothie and this and that. And it all balances out because that's how we are. We're humans. And so you just need to enjoy the food or you might as well not eat it.
1,000%. And it's so crazy because I used to remember being like so full and like just making myself like this is your one chance to have it. And like the amount of thoughts I don't have, like I don't really have thoughts about food anymore other than like, ooh, what am I gonna eat next? Instead of like how much calories, blah, blah, blah. And like I don't have stomach aches anymore. And it's just so crazy once you start to realize that if you trust yourself, the results will come.
And it's funny you're saying that. It's a literal abundance mindset, which I think when you work on manifestation in one area of life, it pours into others because what we're talking about is literally feast or famine, where I relate to that too when I was a poor college student thinking, okay, well, I bought this, so I better enjoy every bite of it because I spent the money on it. Now that we are in a state of financial ease, we are like, okay, I don't need to eat the whole thing. I can either put the rest in the fridge or throw it in the trash. I can just buy another one when I want one again. So because we're in an abundance mindset, we don't have to think of that like, oh, I better enjoy every bite.
But 1,000%. And then once you start doing that in every area of our lives, like you said, so for example, in business, I always say I never get upset if someone's asked for the link and then they don't join, which actually rarely happens now. Usually when they're in my inbox, they're just ready to go.
Right.
But when it used to happen to me, I don't look at it of like, there's something wrong with me, yada, yada. I look like, oh, if this person's not buying now, they're going to buy later, or someone else is going to come in their place and take their spot, whoever needs this. And so it's
Yeah.
using that, dating, that's huge. It's hard to grasp, but that abundance mindset, like there are a million and billions of people on this earth who like can love you in that way. And
Yeah.
so starting to adapt that to every part of your life, like life changing.
Yeah. And also, like you just said, I had someone in my inbox that asked for the link for a private session and she didn't buy, but then she bought the next week. And it's like, you never know. I didn't ask her, but you never know what's going on with these people in their lives. Like maybe she didn't get her paycheck until the next week, or maybe she wanted to talk about it with her husband, or maybe she just wanted to sit on it and marinate. Like, not everyone makes decisions right away. Like, I'm a generator, so I'm always like, boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
But some people need to sit on something and really think about it. And that's totally fine. And that means literally nothing about me, like you said. And if I let that mean something about me, you can spiral, spiral, spiral. And then you're definitely not a match for more success, more clients. It's just not going to happen in that frequency.
Yeah, one of my like taglines that I need to start saying again, but I used to always say is like stop making something mean something about something else. Stop
Hmm.
making the fact that, you have low story views mean you can't have a sold out launch. Stop
Hmm.
making the fact that, your posts didn't go viral mean that you can't sign a client. Like we keep making constructs of like this happened in my reality, so I can't have what I desire. And you can actually flip that and say, because I have this, because I only have 100 story views, I will sign a client, right?
Hmm.
Because in dating, that date didn't go well, I will be closer to, finding my husband, whatever it is. But you get to actually decide the meaning, even if that thing looks like, you can't get what you want because it's your reality is not showing that in a sense.
I love that. And I want to talk about, we were just talking about our periods before we got on the call. I know we talked about it a little bit here, but that's something that when you're in your period and having a rough time, it's okay to feel that and be like, this sucks, but also know that you're very aware that's going to pass. So it's okay if you feel like shit, but don't let that mean something about your future when you're having those feelings of, I feel like shit, or I can't show up for my business today in this way. You will be able to next week. So just relax. It's going to be fine. And you were talking about how that affects you manifesting.
Yes, and I actually Two things. I am in this course to bring me from like fearful, avoidant, anxious to secure. And something that anxious people do is they don't realize that like things change. So they feel like they're always going to feel that way. And
Mhm.
it makes us feel like this is the end of the world if I have this feeling. And one thing I heard, I don't remember where I heard it, but it really changed my life. They were talking about therapy. I'm not in therapy, but they said the biggest lesson I learned from therapy was that you don't have the same problems every week. And so what they realized is like something I'm crying about last week is
Mhm.
not like is that issue's done. I probably already solved it and I'm on to something else. And that just really like rocked my world of like things change. And so when I'm in that feeling with my period at first, I'm like, one, it's good to be like, oh, wait, this is why I'm feeling this way. And then, you know, do what you need to do, watch Bravo, have ice cream, whatever you want. And then the next day or the next hour, whenever, decide that I'm waking up and today is going to be completely different. Decide what you want and that you get to have that regardless of how you're feeling. And it is so powerful to sit with the universe and just say, this is what I get to have. And then you have to all day go back to, I already have this. These are the feelings of it. These are the thoughts I'd be having. And it's just crazy because you could be in a funk and you could really, you know, get yourself into a bigger funk, or you can wake up one day and be like, wait, I can just be the one to decide changes. Because I've fallen into the trap so many times of like, when this happens, I'll feel better. When that boy texts me, I'll feel better. When that sale comes in, I'll feel better. When this, and honestly, if you're in a funk, usually that's doesn't even affect, you know, how the thing happens and you're like, I still feel the same.
Right. And rest is such an important part of manifestation that I think people that love to work or they're more perfectionist or they're used to working hard, they're like, if I work hard, I get money. If I don't work hard, I get nothing. That mentality, which a lot of us have or have reprogrammed out of. But that's something that when you're in receiving mode, when you're resting and disconnecting from the masculine of like, I need to do, that's a lot of times when your manifestation comes in. So even when you have your period and you're resting, you're doing absolutely perfect. That's what you're supposed to be doing, and you're crushing it.
And deciding that's the meaning. Like, oh, the universe is telling me to slow down and watch my shows and live life.
And I had a loved one go through an emergency, which I mentioned on a podcast very vaguely, but I did the least amount of posting in my entire life on social media, which my business runs through social media. And I thought of that where it was like, well, this is probably going to be a really low month for me, but I don't care because this person has priority. But I barely posted, and TikTok is something I'm super regular on. I didn't post, I think, for 2 weeks, which I don't think has ever happened since I've been on TikTok. And then Instagram, very hit or miss, never did like an actual post. It just was checking in on stories and then checking in my email with clients. But I had my biggest month ever. And I think it's because I was able to relax into just allowing. I was in such a what's that called when you give up the control to God? Such a surrender. I was
Yes.
in such a surrender because I was like, you know what, I obviously am going to be able to pay my bills. That's the way I've set my business up is really beautiful. The biggest thing that my membership is mostly passive. So I do have a lot of safety around money, but I was really gearing up and taking on a lot more one-on-one clients. I was really excited about it. So when this happened, I was like, I'm going to have to push a lot of these appointments to later, which sucks, but it's fine. But it just was crazy because even though that happened, I booked more one-on-ones than ever before, and my business did that better than ever before because I was in such a surrender of God, take care of it, and I will just follow your lead.
I'm obsessed with that. And then it's not adding that spiral and that doubt and that, you know, that's what happens. People just start being like, well, because like we said, because I didn't eat the broccoli today, I'm gonna gain 10 pounds. And that's where the stress comes. And you said something, also I think about this of like, for example, if sometimes you need that break. So maybe you take that break and you don't post on social media for 2 weeks and then you come back and TikTok automatically makes one of your posts go viral because they missed you. But like I also think about that in the gym. I haven't been into the gym right now, and I'm always a gym girl, but just like this past 2 weeks, I'm like not into the gym. And that is actually really good for your body because when you go back, you gave it such a big rest that it's easier to build muscle and it actually works better. So it's like, yeah, sometimes rest is the answer and not resisting that.
Yeah, and allowing yourself to know that makes you a more powerful manifester. That's your new belief. Like take it on today because rest is so important and we have to make it a priority. There was a example, a metaphor that Andrea Crowder, I was hearing her, I think on her podcast this week, talk about how it's like when you're on the car or if not on the car, in the car on the freeway and you're in there and you notice you're about to run out of gas. So you have to pull over and get gas because you literally won't make it if you don't pull over. And you know that, okay, I'm going to stop and I'm going to get gas, but that's because it's going to allow me to go again. And we don't think about that. We're like, no, but we have to keep going. We have to keep going. We have to keep going. And it's like, well, you have to refill the tank or you're literally going to not be able to keep going and you're going to have to call AAA. Like that is going to take you 3 steps back from if you would have just stopped and gotten the gas and you would have gotten right back on the freeway.
Oh my God, I love that. And I feel like that's so true because I've been in such a season of trying to feel my feelings instead of stuffing them down. And it's the same with that. When you stuff down your feelings, you're moving so much slower and you're keeping so much inside. And when you instead just stop, feel your feelings, come up, cry, let it out, they pass.
Yeah, it's like the stopping is the going. Like you're still doing what you need to do in order to keep going.
Yeah, the resistance to the stopping is what holds you back.
Is the actual stopping. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. We're
It's
genius.
so wild. And also I want to talk about what just kind of came up when I was talking about how I had my biggest month because I was in such surrender. It's because money is a masculine energy and you have to be in the feminine with masculine and feminine polarity. And I don't think many people realize that they're trying to like go, 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 discipline, 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 and don't realize money needs to be the masculine energy. So when you're doing like, of course, there's action, but you do have to be into the feminine, and the feminine is not only relaxing, but that's that like wildness, that creativity, the harnessing all of like what makes you beautiful and wild and feminine. And part of that is rest, but part of it is the creative things, the things that we think like, oh, I just do this for fun, or me playing with my friends isn't working, but it is. It's working for you because that's the magnetic pull to the money.
1,000%. I'm actually so excited because today I'm going to see a client and we're gonna like go for a walk and get drinks. That vibe of like remembering why you're doing something. And I think it's so funny too, because there's this really big era right now online where they're like, you have to work and manifestation, like, anyone who says manifestation is just like an excuse to not work. And it's like, we obviously take action. We take so much action in our business, of course. But it's so funny when they say that because it's like not using, a superpower. Like it's like not using something in your toolbox. I was just watching this YouTube video of this girl who just robotically affirmed and about her video going viral. And it was the first video on YouTube that got her like 5,000 views. And she's used to getting like under 100. And it's like she knew it was because of her energy behind she was manifesting that's why it happened. And so it's so funny to me when people just want to bypass the manifestation. But on another level, it's scientific. It's like we've seen this and from my certification, and this too, but like you cannot become what you don't believe. Your mind is going to delete that information. And so just like we said, if you don't believe that you love your body, nothing that you can do, even if you had an 8-pack, is going to make you love your body. Like
100%.
like, and so it's the same thing with your business. Your brain is going to find ways, even if you're killing it, to be like, no, you're not successful. Even if you've made, $1 million, they're going to keep telling you like, no, you could make more if you don't actually see yourself as this person.
Did you say that she robotically affirmed the TikTok girl?
Yes. Have you
What does
heard of
that
this?
mean?
Oh,
No.
I love it. I am so for anyone here, I like doing different techniques all the time and just finding out just intuitively, same thing, which one you like. So maybe one day I like to script, one day I like to do something else. And I just always love to learn. But basically it's saying one affirmation over and over again. You can do it, for 10 minutes a day, or you can do it while you're walking, while you're like cleaning your house, while you're doing something that like your mind is usually drifting. So instead, her affirmation was probably something like, my video went viral. And she just said that on a loop. My video went viral. My video went viral. And basically getting that imprinted into your mind.
Wait, that's funny because that's basically what's happening is it's seeping into your subconscious because you're focused on something else and the mind learns by repetition. But so over and over and over again, that's kind of like how a subliminal would be, but just you're doing it to yourself. I can't imagine that that's super fun to do though. That's like writing on a chalkboard over and over.
I and that's why it's smart, I feel like, for if you're cleaning and your mind's racing to what you don't want, that's not fun either. So it's like, if you're in the shower, you know, you always have shower thoughts and then you're like fighting with someone in your head, like that's not fun. And so, yeah, I personally like to do like riffing where I basically talk to myself as if something's already happened. So I'm like, oh my gosh, it happened. It happened. I didn't even like I actually didn't believe it was gonna happen, but it happened. I signed that client. I like sold out the launch. Like I couldn't believe it. Like I got everything I freaking wanted. And I just kept myself in this vibe of like what I would say if it already happened.
Yeah, I love that one. That's really fun. I feel like that's a fun one because you really are connecting to it in the quantum field when you're like, getting to that emotional state. You're basically setting your intention while rehearsing, like mentally rehearsing it and probably somatically rehearsing it too if you're letting yourself feel all the feelings and connecting to it, which just draws it in.
Yeah, and I love another big one that I love is like the telephone technique where you're calling someone who you would be like, "Oh my gosh, like I just, you know, got all these clients or I've never felt so good in my body." And I think that one works really well because you can feel the feelings of like telling your best friend something or telling
Mm-hmm.
your mom or
Mm-hmm.
whoever it is. And
Yeah.
yeah, so adding someone else to it. I also one time I like went on a walk with my friend and we just acted as if we had everything and like, oh my gosh, like I love the fact that your business is killing it. And I literally had my best month ever because I said it to someone else and I said it out loud and it felt like it was real.
Right, because that's what you would be doing if it was already happening. That's so cute. I love that. I also I didn't know it was called the telephone technique, but I do have that in some of my meditations where when I'm having them connect to your manifestation in the quantum field, I say like imagine telling someone that you love because that really is what you would do if it actually happened. Usually that's one of the first things that you do is call someone and be like, this happened. And we all have those like one or two people that you would call right away and they would be so like as excited for you as you.
Oh my gosh. No, I love that. And it's just fun, like we said, intuitively, like figuring out, and that's why I love that you have a membership, like figuring out what you want to do that day to get you in the vibe.
Yeah, because I never want it to feel like homework. That's just the worst. So anything that's not fun, I'm not down for. And it's like if you don't find one of the techniques fun, just don't do it because you're not going to be able to get there emotionally anyway.
And that's why being delusional is so fun.
Yeah.
So fun. I was saying to my friends yesterday, I like got Botox for the first time this year. And I literally turned to my friend yesterday and I was like, I just look in the mirror and I'm like, you're gorgeous. And she was probably like, what the fuck? But I was like, wow, it's so crazy how I really reprogrammed my mind. And even if I didn't fully believe that, I would still say that out loud to make sure that's like how it happens. But yeah, it's just so fun being like, I love when boys, you know, aren't obsessed with you or like looks like, I'm like, "Oh my god, he's literally like so embarrassing." It's how I'm obsessed with. And then it happens. I'm like, I knew this was gonna happen. Every time I'm like, I knew this was gonna happen. I told everyone. They're like, "You're a witch." It's insane.
Yeah, Delulu girlies rise up.
Right? Literally.
Speaking of boys, tell me everything.
Love it. So I feel like I love this podcast because I feel like I'm finally trying to really call in. You know, when you're always like, oh, I'm ready. And you look back and you're like, I was never ready at that point. I think
Mhm.
I really am ready and know what I want fully in someone. And I've been through all the people who aren't 100% of what I want. And
Mhm.
so what I'm doing, which is actually pretty much like manifesting when you think about it, is I realized that I was an anxious, fearful avoidant. And so I didn't know about attachment styles at all. And I feel like something that I hated online, and I don't know if I've talked to you about this before, but one thing I do hate about TikTok is when they're like, if he doesn't wipe your butt, then he's not the one for you. And you're like, oh, well, he doesn't do that for me. And then you start feeling bad about yourself. And there's just all these people online saying this advice that it's like, you know, just making you feel a certain way. And once I found attachment styles, I realized like if he wanted to, he would isn't true. It's like if he wanted to if his attachments out let him. So
Mhm.
basically, what I realized is I'm in a course to become more secure. I'm loving it. But the thing that I realized is it all goes back down to manifestation. It's like catching your thoughts, regulating your nervous system. Like, I'm like, oh my God, this is the same stuff. And so
Mhm.
then basically the premise is that when you're secure, you don't go for the red flags anymore and you attract someone else who is secure.
Mhm. I love that. How do you recognize when they're secure?
Basically, I feel like not having the red flags of if you're getting anxious in your body and you think that that is, butterflies, but really it's, for example, your past recreating itself or it's your body telling you that they're unsafe. My pattern is I was such a people pleaser that I would just be like, oh, yeah, like it's totally fine. Like it's totally fine if we don't commit. It's totally fine if, we don't do these plans or whatever. And it's actually putting up boundaries and like feeling those feelings and walking away too after those boundaries and knowing that like it's okay. Like we said, there's an abundance of people. So
Mhm.
the anxious, fearful, avoidant really feels like there's only this one fish. And so when
Mhm.
you start opening your eyes up to like, oh, if this person doesn't treat me right, there's going to be someone else who does. But the other crazy thing is that what I realized is you keep affirming to yourself your beliefs about yourself. So the anxious person, they feel like they're going to be abandoned, or the fearful avoidant feels like they're going to be betrayed. And so you do things like your subconscious to make that happen. You get clingy, you do, and I'm not like a really clingy person at all, but like you'll do things that will, you know, make that happen and actually attract people in that will reaffirm that belief. So you think you're unlovable, you're actually attracting in someone to affirm that. So if
Right.
you instead attracted in someone secure, so the cool part is that it's just you, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just playing out the things subconsciously because so much of our actions, Kitty, is subconscious. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's basically what I've learned in the last couple weeks, but it is just so freaking eye-opening, and then it makes you just realize that everyone that you dated in the past, there was nothing wrong with you. It was just their, attachment style.
Totally. Because I think, well, first off, I learned so much from the Queen's Code. Have you ever read that?
Yes, I'm obsessed, and I can't believe you read that too.
Yes, I have a whole episode on it, and I asked her to be on the podcast, and she hasn't read my message, so the author, but I'm
That's so
hoping
funny. I was
that
thinking about asking her. I was like, "Who would I want on my podcast?" She is unbelievable. Keep going.
unbelievable. Yeah, so I'm obsessed with that book, and it really is such an eye opener. I read Keys to the Kingdom before, which is the
Mhm.
prequel, and that also really set the stage. So it just is really cool because you realize that women are wired to naturally please men. That's how we are instinctually, primally wired, the animal part of us, right? It gives you a lot of relief because you realize, oh, there's a reason why I'm trying to bend and morph myself for this random stranger man that I met one time, and I'm trying to be cool for him or say the right thing. And I don't even care. I don't even like him yet. I don't even know. And women do this all the time. And it makes so much sense. So when you go, oh, like that's just my wiring, like my biological situation, it really helps you bring your power back. And then also realizing that, like you said, not necessarily the things that he's doing mean what you think that they mean, because we think that men are women. We're always trying to get them to be women, and they're not. They're men, and we don't want them to be women. But so when they respond and act not as women, but as men, we're so confused, and we make it mean what that behavior as a woman would mean. So we're like, oh, well, he's not interested. I say that if he wanted to, he would. If the guy's never responding or reaching out or whatever, he's not interested, obviously. But if it's a situation where he's reaching out and it just isn't in the way that you wanted, or he waits until the weekend to ask to hang out And doesn't mean that he doesn't care and that you're his last resort. It's because they're singularly focused and only can focus on work until they're ready for the weekend. And then they go, oh, I'd really like to see her. And that's why that's happening. It doesn't mean that he's looking at you like you're a side piece or like, or not the queen. It's just that they operate in a different way, and knowing how to understand them and then inspire behavior, the best type of behavior from them, is such a powerful tool.
I like when I read that book and listened to a podcast from her, like I felt like when I found manifestation, I wanted to cry because I knew that men were so different. Like it is so crazy. And I had an experience in college where this guy, I knew deep down this guy loved me and he treated me so bad for a couple years. And 4 years later, he called me out of college and he was like, I like can't believe the way I treated you. Like if I could go back and do it again. And I knew. And so finding her, I was like, exactly right. Like they are I never read the Men Are From Mars, but they are completely different human beings than us. And us women get so upset over men's actions. And if you keep getting upset over their actions, it's such a good book because they're actually like harmless creatures. And I they're not even trying, and we get so worked up, and the craziest part is I use that book on everyone, like, I really my guy friends treat me, I believe, like a queen, like, they are just so nice to me and so sweet because I started, doing the things in that book, and it is so absurd how fast you can get, men to really respect you, and then the other thing that you were saying is if you haven't read Attached, you should read it, but basically, it changed my mind because, like you were saying, the anxiety part, the first chapter, it talks about how the anxiety starts from when we are cavemen and you had to have, a partner. So the reason people get married now is because when you were, a caveman, you wanted a partner so that you could survive longer. Because if you have a partner, you'd survive longer. So you would get anxious because if your, partner, was out there hunting, you thought they were going to die. So when you're
Mhm.
texting your man 100 times, you're just the cave woman in you is like literally thinking that that person's gonna die, which is crazy.
And what's funny is this work, I haven't read that and I need to, and that's so fascinating. Thank you. But the Queen's Code, what's so triggering to women is that they're like, oh, so we have to treat them like they're children or whatever. And it's like, no, you just have to read the book first off. And secondly, it's if you imagine that they always have a good reason for what they're doing, and you just need to understand what that is, and you can ask them, like, hey, I assume you have a great reason for why you did that, like, and you're literally dying, like, why they did that. Can you let me know what that is, or can you explain to me what that was? So that I can understand better. And you just say it not in a condescending way, coming from like your tone and energy, they can read in our physicality. They're super physical, so they can see when like our jaws are tight because we're pissed, and like when our eyes are all fucked up, like they know, and they're like, oh, she's pissed, and then they're gonna shut down and they're not going to communicate well, and it's all going to go downhill. But if you come at it where you're not attacking them and you're trying to understand, they will explain to you the reason of what they're doing. And you're like, oh, you sweet, sweet man. I did not know that you were doing that. It's so funny. And I'll mention a platonic example that's coming right now, but a friend of mine, when we first met, we were like texting back and forth to hang out, and we'd hang out and whatever, and completely platonic. It's funny because sometimes it was new in a friendship, so we were like courting each other in a friendship, I guess, because we didn't have any mutual friends. We met at a bar, and so anyway, when we were texting back and forth, there'd be sometimes that he just wouldn't text me back, and he wouldn't text me back for like a day, and then he would text me back or whatever, and I was like, oh, that's kind of strange. And obviously, because it was platonic, I didn't care. It wasn't like I was really upset, but I really liked him as a friend. And I was like, well, that sucks. I hope he still wants to be friends with me. And I was taking it as, oh, maybe he just doesn't want to hang out, and maybe we'll like never see each other again. And how women do, like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're not friends. And then now he's one of my really good friends about a year later. And it's funny because a couple months ago, we were all hanging out, and I had forgotten about this because we're such good friends now. And he brought it up and he was like, oh, yeah, I remember when we first started hanging out and I wouldn't respond or whatever. And I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I had forgotten. And he basically told me the reason why he did that is because those times that he didn't respond, he was out drinking and he didn't want to say the wrong thing because he was drinking. So he waited until he was sober and knew what he wanted to say back. But it was because he didn't want to like fuck up our friendship and like be drunk and me be like, who is this guy? Like drunkard, like slurring text or something, you know? And so had such a good reason. But in my head, I was like, oh, he just doesn't want to hang out.
I'm obsessed. And that's where the two books, like Attached and Queen's Code, go so well together, because the secure person also gets to that point where they're just like not their facial is calm, everything, and they're just like, oh, curiosity. What like, oh, what question? Why don't you like why does it take so long to answer instead of like
Mm-hmm.
accusatory? And that's where they don't like it. And it's just so funny because that book helped my relationships with my dad, my brother, like every man in my life. It felt like I like, yeah, and there's so many women who are like, we have to do this. It's like, well, if you don't have to manifest, but if you want to get what you want, manifest. If you like, if you want to keep your relationships with men how it is, then keep it how it is. But if you want something different in your life, but I'm obsessed with that because it's also, it all ties in together, because it's like if you are Delulu and you actually see the good in people, you see the good in situations, and you decide how the situation's going to end, that's what's going to happen. I always say karma is it's so crazy. Me and Karma were best friends. It's unreal. It's like Taylor
Karma is your boyfriend?
literally is my boyfriend. Yeah, that's probably why, manifesting soon. And so it's so crazy because something will happen to me and I'll be like, I know that I'm gonna come on out on top, or like I'm just gonna, be in a better place than I was, even though this is happening and it's hard at the moment. And every time I'm completely right. And like there's times where people are like, I don't know, I barely get in fights, but like I'll get in a fight with someone and it looks like I'm wrong. And then, months later, they hate this girl. And I'm like, I just knew that I saw something that other people didn't. But also having that, like, I took a step back and was like, okay, I know who I am. I know how this is going to end. And so what's the point of freaking out? Like, I'm going to decide it's going to end exactly how I want it to.
And that's something too with love is that if you want someone and you're looking for a husband or a wife or like that type of situation, you will get it. If it's in you, that's because you're meant to have it. There's no way that you would want it and you wouldn't get it. So it's like, it's all going to work out in the end. Who are you in the meantime, in the in between? And often who you are is what pulls that in sooner. Like you can extend meeting that person by being a disaster, or you can become the woman that is the wife and you show up as wife now and you can meet faster, but you can't show up that half energy. I was talking about this on a TikTok the other day because I realized a lot of people do this, and it's where you show up half energy. So you're like, I'll be wife if the person shows up and is husband. But
Wow.
how is the husband supposed to see you when you're not being wife? Like he literally can't see you. You would be right in front of him and he can't see you. But if you show up as wife, you will attract a lot of people that see, oh, she's wifey. And then you just sort through the best match for you. It's not about like finding him, but you can't show up half energy and expect him to show up full energy, because that's not how manifestation works. Like you can't be half and then expect full. It's just not the math. The math isn't mathing.
And I've been in such a place of like chilling. Like it's more of like I have not been into the apps or going like when I want to, I will intuitive again. But it's more of just like I can sit everything that I've got in my life, I've done it intuitively and I've manifested it. So it's like, what is the point in worrying? It's like I've been really sitting back and working on me and the manifesting aspect. And that's how it's going to really come into your life. Like 100% of what you're saying. It's like we always talk about this and it's so like overdone, but like becoming her, it's
Mhm.
true. It's like feeling that way already. And so you can be on the apps and not get any swipes because you're feeling bad on the apps and you're feeling, no one's cute, this isn't working, yada yada, and feel lack. And you can feel abundant not on the apps and then go outside and meet that person like on the street.
100%. Yeah. It's all about how you're being. And I like how you're talking about, because you were saying I can feel it, like it's happening soon, which is so exciting. You're going to have to come back and give us an update. But I love thinking of this is, you're about to meet your person. This is the last time that you will be single. And do you want to be looking back at, oh, the last few months or however long it is, even if it's the last year of my single life, I was desperate, wishing, waiting for this person to show up? Or were you doing all the things that you know once you're in that partnership, you're like, I went full out. I have no regrets. I met a lot of amazing men. I had a lot of conversations that when I'm in the relationship, like won't necessarily be appropriate. You can't just like go up and like meet people and be like, want to be friends to men when you have a man, you know? So really enjoying like all the friends that you meet in the meantime that you get to keep because you're friends with the person before you met your husband. So you get to keep them. And also all the men that weren't it, but there was something special there. There was some sort of special connection. And what an amazing like night you had where all your friends were out and together and you had so much fun. Like you'll look back on those memories when you're with your besties on the rocking chairs, old and gray, and be like, oh my God, remember that Frenchman that I met that night, or the Australian, or the, I don't know why I'm giving everyone an accent, but but remember that night. Like those are the nights that you're going to talk about. And then of course, like all the wonderful things that come when you meet your person. But it's like, enjoy this time. This is the last time you're going to be single. Enjoy it.
I always say people hate being single who aren't doing single things, who are, and that doesn't mean hooking up with people, which it can, but it also just means like I've just done a visa. Like I've done like you know me, like I just do it all. And I honestly think the biggest block with me and love is having to, say goodbye to that phase. But instead, I have started, I didn't even realize this till you said this. I realized I started visualizing me and like my person at Coachella together. Like that, like life doesn't stop. I am one of those, yeah, who I'm never gonna be like, oh my gosh, like I wasted so many years being single. Never. Like I am obsessed to the core. I have the best guy. That's my problem. I have the best guy friends in the world and they make me feel like a princess. Like I already have everything I need. And so anything on top is just really a cherry on top.
Yeah.
And it's just so nice to live life that way.
Yeah, you're definitely in the prime position to me. Just everything you're saying, I'm like, yeah, it's happening.
Guru. No, it's and I always say to people like the biggest thing is if you knew that, for example, at 34, you would, meet your soulmate, you would do whatever you want right now. Like you wouldn't even think about it. And that's what I love about Taylor Swift's album and the deciding. Is I was just talking to my roommate yesterday. It's like, yeah, we look at Taylor Swift and she's in the most incredible relationship of her life, but she literally had no idea this was coming because just a few months before she was so depressed telling us in this music. And it's like, it's so crazy that we sometimes we feel like, oh, we just got out of a relationship, or oh, like I'm so single, it's never gonna happen. And it's like, wait, that's not, stop making something mean something about something else. It could literally you wake up the next day and you're done.
Mhm.
You're in
And
a
if you're feeling that way, listen to The Prophecy because that's one of the saddest songs she has on there. And it's so truthful. And it's literally saying, I'm always the girl where it never works out. Like I always think I almost have him and that this is the one. And then it's not like, is it this prophecy that I'm cursed, that I'll never meet him? I'll never get him to stay. Like I'll never have the relationship. Like all my other friends find their guy. And it's always me that it doesn't work out even after years. Right. So she's so, yeah, she's so upset and like, please, she's begging, please change the prophecy. Like, this is always my story of this always happening to me. And then look at her now. She's the relationship everyone is looking to. So really know that if you desire it, it's meant for you. Like, there's no chance it's not happening. It's not possible. Like, it's improbable, not possible. It's not happening. So just know it's going to work and be the woman that you want to look back at and be like, yeah, I was the best friend, the best sister, the best daughter, whatever, in that time that I had the more available energy, because a lot of energy will go to your partner. That doesn't mean that you stop doing all the other things, but show up in the ways that you can for the people that you love already. And that only magnetizes another love to you. Like love magnetizes love.
And you're gonna, and this is, I was, I was also saying this to my roommate yesterday. It's like, when you go through a breakup, you always forget, but it's so annoying because you always get mad at yourself for getting so down, but it makes sense. But like I've been saying this before this was a trend on TikTok, they always come back. And it's so funny because like you're one day gonna meet your person and be like, damn, I wasted all that time, like you said, doubting and blah blah blah. And then you're just gonna be like, this was always gonna happen. It was always aligned in the stars. This was
Yeah.
how it was supposed to happen. And it's so crazy because when you're going through a breakup, we're always so sad. And I always say to my friends, like, one day they're gonna come back and you're gonna be like, oh my God, I was so sad about that person. But of course, they
Mhm.
all come back.
And women always get really, really sad and depressed, and they process all their emotions right away. After the breakup, you're like, yeah. And the men go out, they get on the apps, they start dating right away. And so the women are even more upset because they're like, how could he be doing this to me? We were just together yesterday. How is he already out? Like, I meant nothing to him. And then it switches. They go through their period, and then the women are healed and ready and like meeting the next guy or the guy, and then the men come crawling back and they're so upset and they're like, wait, you didn't even care about me. It's like, no, 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 bitch, I processed this months ago.
Oh my God, I think you're like spying on me right now. But also it's so funny because I just had two people that I used to go on dates with come back. One that we were like, that one's never coming back. And yeah, I'm like, oh my God, it's just so crazy. But exactly what you said. And that's why you have to read Attached because that's also part of one of the attachment styles that they, it takes them a while to then finally have the feelings come up. And I actually had a quote that I wrote down this week that it's like, the coolest part is even though you're sad when you're watching someone else look so happy, it's like you're healing and then they're going to have to heal. So you're going
Mm.
to be healed when they're healing. And I wouldn't want to have it any other way. Like that
No,
would suck if it
I
was
can't imagine doing it the other way at
I mean,
all.
I had a boy come back 4 years after college. I was like, "You're thinking about me? Oh my God, I feel so bad." Like, I was like, "Oh no, I have not thought about you in so long. That is so crazy." But that was the best thing that ever happened to me because and that's this is such a good episode, but that's what I told my roommate yesterday. Your gut is always right. Your desires are always right. What you believe to be true. And this is what I meant about karma is like, I knew, even though my reality looks like this kid was treating me like ish, and why would they ever do that to someone they love? You are crying because you're right. Like you're crying because you know the answer. Like, and that's
Mhm.
the coolest part of like, even if your reality is showing you everything else, like you have to trust that like the truth is going to come out. I always say like look in 6 months, but if you're feeling these emotions, your emotions are telling you something. And when that happened to me, I was like, I knew it. I always
Mhm.
knew it. Like, and I never stopped trusting myself after that because I was
Mhm.
like, it's crazy.
And I think what you're saying too is so aligned when women will know things. So they're so much more intuitive naturally than men. So they'll know, like, if you're friends with a guy and you're like, oh, we're more than friends. And the guy's like, no, yeah, yeah, we're bros. And you're like, no, sweetie, there's something here. And so you're kind of like thinking about him and then he's not into it. And then you're totally past it. And then he months later or years later is like, wait, 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 wait. And you're like, no, yeah, I knew that, but I'm moved on now, so I'm not into it. It's because women are so intuitive and they can feel it, they can sense it right away. But men, it takes them a while.
Yes. And they're just stuffing down their feelings for any and as you can see from the Queen's Code or the Kingdom one, it's like whatever phase they are in their life. And that helps too, because it's like nothing is what is the word? Nothing is not about us, but like
They're
I
just, yeah, they're not in the space that they can even see it because they're so singularly focused. So whatever stage they're in, they only care about what are those priorities in that stage, which is usually adventure, building their career, and then they want to have those things set before they invite the queen into their castle and into their life.
1000%. And I think what's also so cool too is like they're not going to treat the next person better. Like, and that's just it's sad too because I do believe people can change 100%, but not right away and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
the reason you left is the reason you left.
And if you're being all that you're being the queen, you're doing everything that you would be to inspire him to be his best, and he's still mediocre is a polite word. then that's your answer. And there's literally nothing you can do or should do to change the man. And he'll be a great match for someone that's a match for him. And that's not saying like I think women are perfect. It's just like you aren't the match for him. And maybe he's completely different with someone else that inspires the behavior. No one knows, but it's like not your problem. So that's your key, your clue, like get out.
Yes, and nothing's as it seems. That's why I love social media. Like, it's just so funny because you're like, "Oh my god, you look like you were having so much fun," to your friend, and they were like, "Nope, I was actually blah blah blah." So even though you're that's why decide your reality. Decide, "Oh, this means this. Oh my god, this means this kid misses me so much. This means blah blah blah." But and going back to the Taylor Swift thing, I think the craziest part is we're all human. That album, I wasn't a huge Swiftie, and now I heard it and I was like, "Oh, wow, she's a savage. I'm obsessed." It showed that we want to be someone else where there is the biggest pop star in the world who's telling us she was depressed on stage. She's had boys ghost her. She's had the same exact problems as all of us. And it wasn't her, it was the people she was attracting. And she finally found someone who could see all the incredibleness. Cause I think, like, how the hell are people ghosting Taylor Swift or cheating on Beyonce? Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And look at the art that they created through that too, and all the money they made. I always think about that. Like everything has a purpose. There's always a lesson there. And whether that's, Beyonce stayed with the man, so I don't know what lesson they learned in their relationship, but usually it's a relation or a lesson for you that you're able to grow into the woman that is then ready to be with your match. And so that's the coolest thing. Like when you're going through something really shitty, know that your higher self is celebrating because you went through something that is growing you. And we're here to grow and to have fun, but we're here to grow.
Yes, and I always say, and I forgot that this week, but I reminded myself that every breakdown it turns into a breakthrough because too, I do believe that always before my manifestations come, it always feels like I'm getting the opposite of what I want. And then my manifestation still comes when I still believe. But the other thing about that is when you're having your breakdown, that's when you go back to manifestation. That's where you go back to the learning. That's where you go back if you're a self-help girly to trying to, fix yourself in some way. And you're so right. That's when the healing is happening.
I love that so much. And that just made me think of too when it doesn't happen every time, but if you're manifesting something big too, and you're rewiring a limiting belief, when you're asking for that big thing and you're doing all the subconscious work, very often you'll see things pop up. For example, if you're asking for a huge sum of money or like a big promotion or a big dream job or your business, then you might get a bunch of bills in the mail or like, oh shit, I had debt here and I had no idea, like all this weird shit. And you're like, what do you mean? I've been manifesting money. Why this happened? It's because everything that was hidden needs to come up. Like everything has to come up that was hidden that you didn't know about. So like you might have this bill that was due 4 months ago, but you didn't realize. And now it pops up because you're like, oh, and you have to hold your power through that, advance through the challenge and be like, no, 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 this still means I'm manifesting the money. And who cares if you have a $300 bill, if you're manifesting $15,000, like no one cares. So hold the power, you'll be able to pay the bill fine. And then the money will still come through. But if you cower back and go, well, I guess that means I'm not manifesting any money, then you're just going to manifest more bills and you're not expanding into that next level.
Yes, I always now get excited when I'm having a breakdown. Sometimes I forget, but when I do realize
Yeah.
it, I'm like, "Oh my god." So for example, with my job, when I got furloughed, I knew. Like once you start realizing like, "Oh my gosh, this is the breakdown," and then you get smarter because you start getting excited instead of like, "Oh wow, things are really about to turn the freak around."
Yeah, we sound so mad. Like we're all mad here. We're like, when things are really, really bad, we're so excited.
People are literally either the girls who get it, and the
Mhm.
girls who don't are gonna be like, "What the hell?" And that's exactly what we want. I always say, like, I never push manifestation on anyone. I'm like, "Just look at my life and see how well I'm living, and if you want to live like me, you can, but I'm never going to I'm just gonna" yeah, literally, like, 'cause
Drop the mic. Just look at my life and then you can figure it out.
1,000%. They'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I literally did not think you could, like, end up getting with that sexy ass boy." I was like, "Oh, I knew." Like, I knew, And I'm like, if you want to do the same things, you can too. The other
I
thing
love you so much.
I love you too. The other thing I thought of really quickly is also when the universe takes stuff out of your life, I realized that as an anxious girly, I used to get really sad, even if it was temporary. I've had a lot of friends leave San Diego and I cried my freaking eyes out. And then I'll look back and the situation's so much better than it ever was. Like my
Mhm.
friend ended up leaving and coming back. And I can't believe I freaking cried over that, just like we were talking about with the breakups. And it's like just realizing that, yeah, all the puzzle pieces, or like when you leave college, you're like so upset. And then you're like, oh, wait, it's nice not binge drinking 7 days.
Mhm. Mhm. That's funny. I want to comment on that too, because I just went through this. One of my best friends just moved to Nashville. And the day she told me, I was super sad. I felt like I was broken up with, because when someone that you have so much of the day to day with, you're like, oh, well, my whole day to day looks different in my head, like what I thought. And it has no, I had no choice in the matter. So you have that grieving. And I was really upset. I cried the day of. And then we're such good friends. So when she started telling people and whatever, they asked me about it. And the next day I woke up like, I am good to go. I'm super excited for her, blah, 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 blah. And it's not because I don't love her so much and I won't miss her, of course. It was because I just know from the past that this is how it happens. That means that someone I love so much that's in my day to day, that made space for someone else that I'm going to love so much in my day to day. And we've done long distance before, like everything's going to be fine. And I already have a trip to Nashville, which will be so much fun. And then all these trips, we want to do London, we want to do all these things that we've been talking about. But because we lived in the same city, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll get to it. And now it's like, okay, well, let's plan it because we need to see each other. So there's just so much more travel in my future. And I'm sure so much more magic when we travel together, we have the best time and like the most amazing adventures. So it's like this only brings me more and only brings her more. And it's, yeah, it looks different and that's can be sad at times, but it really only is working out for me. And that's how I choose to live. And I will not do anything different.
1,000%. And that doesn't mean that I still get freaking fooled. Like it's so annoying because I'm literally like the baby with the like when they close their eyes and they think they're not there. Cause like every time something happens, I'm like, you told yourself you weren't gonna cry. Oh, peekaboo. You weren't gonna cry. And then I cry again. And then I'm like, oh wait, it made my life better. I forgot. Like
Yeah,
it's
but
so
that's just human. That's just
it
being
is.
human. And the more that you practice, I feel like the more it works. And then again, like we said, it's not that you don't feel the emotions. We both feel the emotions. We both feel sad because that's part of the human experience and we're supposed to do that. And I was talking to my intuitive mentor and she was telling me actually on the podcast about how like our souls are thriving when we're going through a time and like feeling really sad or feeling really mad because we came onto earth to be in the human body. You can't have all the emotions as a soul in heaven. So the reason that we're here is to experience all the things, to like feel all the things on our body, to do all the things that humans do. And part of that is the full spectrum of the emotions. So we're thriving when things like that happen. So she was like, think of it, if you can, like a split screen between your human you that's upset and feel the feelings, but also realize like you're thriving. So it really helps.
Wait, I am actually obsessed with that. And just like I heard something, but like it's just an emotion. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just a thought. Like when just same thing when you stop resisting the thoughts and you're like, oh, that's just a thought. Like I can decide if I want to believe that thought or not. Oh, that's just a feeling. It's not going to kill me. It really changes the way that you go through stuff. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
insane. And then I just feel like, and that's the same thing with becoming secure. You're just able to feel your emotions, not be scared of them, and then move on to, not making it your whole personality.
Mm-hmm. We love nervous system regulation.
Exactly.
It's so sexy.
And that's the craziest part that I always learn the answers I need to learn. But like in this sense, I'm learning it in dating when I knew nervous system regulation in the sense of manifestation. And I know it in the sense of just feeling better. And so it's so weird that everything is connected, like the process, but
Mm-hmm.
you can use it for different things.
Mm-hmm, totally. And because just like how we both learned how to do it with money, and then like money through my business was a whole different thing than money through a 9 to 5. And so learning each thing, it's like that's just a different avenue, but and most of the same principles will apply, but then your reflections of that stuff, like that shit that flies up that we were talking about, of when you're asking for that love, it will pop up like, oh, here's all the shit you haven't healed yet. So enjoy this. Once you get through this, then we will give him to you.
1,000%. And they're like, oh, you wanted someone taken out of your life? Okay. And then
Mm.
they're like, yeah. Oh, you want, to see pass all these tests? Like, that's exactly what it is. Like, I feel like when people come back, it's passing tests. It's like, are you gonna keep answering this person and do the same thing that you did? Or do you want something that's actually, someone said this, like, leaving something good for something great?
It's checking to see if you're ready, if you can hold it. And most of us don't pass the first time, but don't worry. They'll give you another one.
They'll give you a really hard one, and it'll hurt bad, so then you have to pass.
Yes. Well, on that note, this has been so much fun, and I know we'll do this again. And you're going to come back when you've manifested him because we can't wait to hear about it. And
I'm
I
like,
know,
"I'll see you tomorrow."
yeah. So I'll see you this weekend. I do want you to plug everything because people need to be around you. Where can they follow you? Where can they work with you? And your podcast. I will link ours below, but go listen to her podcast.
Perfect. This was so much fun, and, like, I'm so serious. Let's do this, like, every month, every quarter, whatever.
Yeah, we should.
So nice to talk. I feel like I've known you forever, but where you can find me is on my Instagram, Samantha Aaron Coaching, same thing as my TikTok. And then my podcast is Can't Stop Talking. And yeah, I use all these principles in business. And so yeah, come into my DMs. I love chatting, as you can tell.
Yeah, just being in your energy, like your business will explode if you work with Sam because just being in your energy is so magnetic. And I do think that's an amazing idea. We should do this like once a quarter and we'll just like switch off between our podcasts.
I love it. I could talk to you for literally hours.
I know. We're like, oh, whoops. I looked at the time. I'm like, oh, we gotta go. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you in a couple months.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye. Wait, before you go, I have a free gift for you. If you want a tool to help you transmute your desperate energy into magnetic AF energy in only 20 minutes, you guys, only 20 minutes, I guide you through this EFT video. You'll feel completely different after the video. Any desperation you feel about what you are manifesting will be completely transmuted in 20 minutes. So you can go from feeling desperate, that lack, fear, scarcity mindset around what you're manifesting, whether that's love or something else. You will feel magnetic AF, powerful, and be able to manifest that into your life. 20 minutes, you guys, is all it takes. It's my gift to you, completely free. All you have to do is leave a review on Apple Podcasts for this podcast. Take a screenshot of your review before you submit it. That's very important, before you submit it. Then submit your review and DM me on Instagram your screenshot, and I will send back the EFT video so you can get started right away. Your reviews mean so much to me personally, and they mean so much to the podcast as a new podcast. The streaming platforms only push out a new podcast when they have reviews under them, pushing them out to people that have similar interests. So your support means the world. Thank you so much. Make sure you follow show on Apple or follow on Spotify so that you get first access when new episodes drop. So I will see you here on Power Talk Tuesday. Until then, have a great week.